Scholar from Jadavpur,
No,
University,
Vidyasagar University.
from Vidyasagar University. I'm sorry, and he works on multi-ethnic society of Assam under colonial regime, and his paper is looking at famine, migration, and demographic change, analysis of relation between famine of Chota Nagpur and demographic change in Brahmaputra Valley under colonial regime.
Yes, madam.
So over to you, Ayan.
Thanks,
And
madam.
I will.
Good morning to everybody. My name is Ayan Dash, and the title of my paper is Famine, Migration, and the Demographic Change. Analysis of the relation between the famine of the Chotnagpur region and the demographic change in the Brahmaputra Valley under the colonial regime. In 1897, like other part of Indian subcontinent, Chotnagpur region also faced a devastating famine, and in this famine, Aboriginal people of this region was affected. Colonial authority also started relief works, but it was failed. And according to colonial records, less precipitation and the crop failure was primarily blamed, but recently scholar pointed out that the intervention of the colonial policy in the Chotnagpur region actually created the background of the famine in this context. And in this prolonged process of the famine, people of distressed people were forced to migrate to other region for their work, and as a part of this they were migrated to the Brahmaputra Valley and become work as tea laborer. But at first we focus on the Chotnagpur region. Chotnagpur region, geographically called as a plateau, which was situated in eastern part of Indian subcontinent. But what is the condition of the during the pre-colonial period? During the pre-colonial period, when some section of Aboriginal people continued sedentary agriculture, when some section of population continued their traditional livelihood. But after the colonial occupation, everything was started to change. What changed? In 1781, Major J. Brown actually talked about natural products, especially the agrarian products and forest products, for economic interest of the newly established colonial state. And in 1793, remarkable year, in 1793, under the time of Lord Cornwallis, permanent settlement was imposed in the Chotnagpur region, like other part of the Bengal Suba or the eastern part of the Indian subcontinent. That actually encouraged the process of change in the life of the tribal people in the Chotnagpur region. What happened? Actually, for this process, life of the tribal people was started to change, and they become turned as landless laborer or the small tenants, and they become the victim of the poverty and starvation. And in so we can focus, and they become the subject, or they become the easy victim of this famine. Now we talk about the famine of 1866. In 1866 famine, the Manbhum, especially the Manbhum district, was severely affected. But what happened in the Manbhum district? In 1863 and 1864, crop was not so much produced, and in 1865, crop was destroyed due to heavy rain. So food scarcity was started in the Manbhum district, but still in this time, crop rice was exported from the Manbhum district. That actually sharp the food scarcity in this region. And in this case, from the early months of 1866, crime, especially burglary and dacoity, was increasing, and and starvation and the major parts of population faced starvation. So deputy commissioner of the Manbhum district proposed famine relief work, but the Colonel Dalton, who was in charge of the Chotnagpur region, rejected this proposal. And in this case, after the summer of the 1866, starvation, death due to starvation occurred in many part of Manbhum district, because due to starvation, because of the high price of the rice, and due to less rainfall, production was failed. And in this situation, after getting fund from Calcutta, District Famine Relief Committee opened depot for gratuitous relief under the which was run under the charge of Jamindars. But distress was continued till the end of the 1866 and 1860. In the 1866 famine, total 30,000 people were killed in this Manhum district. And in the colonial report, basically the less precipitation as well as the crop failure was primarily blamed. But from the writing of Hunter, it can be said that exportation of rice during the time of scarcity and negligence of government officials to the famine warning was the cause behind the severe situation of famine. And Hunter also pointed out that those people who relied on rice for staple food were the victim of or were the easy victim of famine, but those people who relied on other kind of food, especially edible forest products, were the least victim of this famine. For example, he talked about the aboriginal of people of the Palamut subdivision in the former Lohardaga district, where he also said that aboriginal people of the Palamau district relied on edible forest products as well as bhadoi crops like jowar and bajra for staple food. So it is clear that due to colonial policy of expansion of sedentary agriculture, food habit of the population was gradually changed and they become relied on rice for their staple food, and during the time of food scarcity they become the easy victim of this famine or the food scarcity. Now we talk about the 1897 famine. In 1897 famine, what we see that in 1896 people there was less rainfall and there was a crop failure. So from the early month of 1897, food scarcity was started in this region, and in from the March April of 1897, food scarcity was so much that that the Chotnagpur official of the Chotnagpur division, especially the Palamau district, started to import rice from outside, and they also giving financial bounties to traders for importing rice from outside. And according to the report, total 20,000 rupees were paid for as a financial bounty to the traders. But the high price of rice did not diminish. For example, in April 1897, rice was sold at the rate of 6 cents. But in June 1897, just before the coming of monsoon, rice was sold at the rate of 5 to 6 cents per rupees in 12 markets of this Palamau district. And in August 1897, rice was sold under the 5 cents per rupees was sold in 11 market of this Palamau district. And in all 5 districts in the Chotnagpur region faced this similar fate. And as a result, gratitude number of receiver of gratuitous relief was continuously growing in the Chotnagpur division, and relief works was going on. For example, in the Hazaribagh district in June 1897, total 10,000 people received gratuitous relief from 29 kitchen of the 29 kitchen from in the Hazaribagh district. And in the first 2 weeks of June 1897, total 9,000 labor in engaged in the relief test work in the Manhum district. But the distress was continued. In this situation, for the agrarian revival, uh, government authority actually started to giving financial advancement as a through giving agricultural loan or land improvement loan. And for example, in June 1897, total 75,000 rupees was allotted for agricultural loan. And from the report, it is also said that from 1st May 1897 to 14 August 1897, total 1,39,000 rupees was paid for agricultural loan from the government allotted fund, and total 67,000 rupees were paid for agricultural loan from the charitable relief fund. But the distress did not diminish, And in this situation, epidemic of cholera was outbroke that actually increased death rate in this region. And in this case, it can be said that food scarcity actually encouraged the epidemic of cholera in this situation, because we cannot ignore the fact that in 1866, Hunter show that in 1866 famine, several people of Manbhum district was killed due to cholera, because they were forced to use non-edible food, because there was huge food scarcity in this state. So same thing happened in 1897 in the Chotnagpur region. But the question is, why colonial policy of famine relief was failed? First, two things. First is that actually colonial authority wanted to control the food scarcities through market oriented policy. What? They actually giving financial bounty to traders for importing rice. And according to the report, till August 1897, total 15,000 mound of rice was imported in the Palamur district, but the price of rice not diminished. So there was a possibility that trader did not sell rice in minimum rate, and there was possibility of hoarding. And another thing is that in the case of financial advancement, small tenant or the in-depth tenant did not get any priority. And there was a question that it colonial policy had the role to create the background of the famine. Yes, basically the colonial land policy means the permanent settlement actually created a majority of the population become the landless laborer. Even there was a due to this situation, there was kamia or in-depth peasant. In-depth peasant means bonded peasant who are work as bonded laborer or serfs under the big landholders, who are also works as mahajan or money lenders. And as well as we also see that in this Chotnagpur region, there was a practice of shifting cultivation, and in the Palamur district, especially the Palamur district, there was a five kind of tenure in which tribal people enjoyed their traditional rights over land, especially the Pariyadari system, where every people of this village got a share of land, but due to penetration of the permanent settlement, as well as the penetration of the sedentary agriculture, shifting cultivation was gradually diminished, and they become turned as small tenants or agricultural laborers, and their wage was not so much high in the normal period. They spend half of their wage to buy food. So we can easily assume what happened these day laborers during the time of the starvation. So now we talk about the immigration. What is the immigration? Actually during the time of famine, immigration was continued. Hunter also talked about that there was immigration during the time of famine from the from the Manbhum district and the South Albergona district. In 1897, it is also reported that men left their female and child member of their family for earning and go to Assam and otherwise for earning. But according to the report of 1897, there was no official report about how number of people emigrated from this region. So it can be said that there was the situation is out of control. And even during the time of normal situation, people were migrated from the Chotnagpur region to other region. For example, in the Palamur district, when shifting cultivation is gradually diminishing, Aboriginal people who practices this shifting cultivation were migrated to other region for job, and they also work as tea garden laborer in Assam or in Kachar or in other region. Actually, they had no hope. And why? And what is the colonial viewpoint towards this immigration? Actually, in 1880 famine report, advisor argued that immigration is a part of the famine relief policy, but they also said that immigration was not so much popular among the agrarian population because it has limited economic possibility. So they argued that if immigration is occurred or immigration is running under a planned process, then immigration become fruitful to the colonial authority or the colonial state. Actually, we cannot ignore the fact that British capitalism invests their capital in several sectors in the Indian subcontinent, and cheap labor was needed in this situation, and and the colonial state actually wanted to expand agriculture in several regions for the economic interest of the British capitalism. So they encouraged the distressed people to emigrate other region for this expansion of agriculture. That actually helpful to the British capitalism, and as a result, this tea planter, British tea planter of the Assam Valley, actually eager to recruit this tea laborer. But why? Because when tea plantation was established in the Assam Valley, local population were not eager to work. Oh, sorry.
You have 10 minutes.
Okay. Local population did not eager to work in tea plantation. Even imported Chinese laborer were not eager to work in this tea garden. So they looked towards the cheap, reliable source of labor, and they considered that immigrant of the Chotnagpur region were the considered as cheap, reliable source of laborer in the for the working in the Assam tea garden. Now, what is the impact of the demographic scenario from the for this immigration? In 1881 census, it is also stated that total 5,900 people who are migrated from Chotnagpur region were working in the Assam Valley Tea Garden. But in 1891 census, it is also reported that that immigrant from the immigrant tea garden laborer formed 7% of total population of the Assam of the overall province of Assam, and in the Sibsagar district and Lakhimpur district, both toward the hub of the tea cultivation, where this immigrant become the sizable part of the population. For example, in 1891 census, immigrant people from the Chotnagpur region from as 21% of total population in the Sibsagar district, and in Lakhimpur district they form as to 12% of total population. And in 1966 and 1907, immigrant number of the immigrant labor was increasing due to the famine. So the number was continuously increasing, and the effect was also depicted in the 1901 census, where it is depicted that they in the Lakhimpur district they form as the 21% of total population, and the Sibsagar district they form as the 14% of the total population, and they become emerge as a tea tribe people. We cannot ignore the tea tribe. This tea tribe people were the actually the descendant of the immigrant of the Chotnagpur region. But after immigration from their homeland to the Brahmaputra Valley, they still face malnutrition as well as maltreatment from the tea planter, and they will also face starvation or malnutrition, and among them the death rate was so high due to several kind of malnutrition related diseases. But there was a question there, but the question is, what is the viewpoint towards the entire scenario? Actually, colonial authority described that in India, poverty and famine actually production related problem, not is a distribution related problem. But nationalist scholar actually argued that no, colonial policy, especially the expenditure policy, negligence policy, or the export policy, actually play a key role behind the severe condition of the famine. And in later period, scholar pointed out that the intervention of the capitalist production system in several regions through destruction of traditional livelihood actually encourage or actually creating the background of the famine. Especially the Mike Davis actually argued that due to penetration of the capitalist production system, the traditional system of livelihood or traditional system of cultivation was destroyed, that actually create the background of the famine. And in this case, Ajit Kumar Ghosh also argued that prolonged process of poverty and inequality actually created the background of the famine. So ultimately, it can be said that under the colonial regime, a new production system was emerged, a new production system of emerge, and it was penetrated in several regions through destruction traditional system or traditional livelihood that actually made tribal people or the local aboriginal people as landless laborer, and when they started to immigrate to other region, they become the cheap source of reliable labor for the capitalist production system. So it can be easily said that actually new kind of production system established is domination through elimination of a traditional system of livelihood that created the situation of hunger, famine, and immigration that actually fruitful to the new kind of production system.
Thank you so much for also like keeping the time. And I think you make a very important argument about the role that distressed migration in different periods played towards destruction of certain kinds of production systems, but also in the emergence of new kinds of production systems. And as we can see, uh, the legacy of these migrations is continuing to haunt the regions within which these migrations
Yes,
took
in the Assam
place.
Valley.
Yes.
We cannot ignore this fact that this the tea tribe people were not were not willingly migrated.
Yeah. So I think like these are the questions that perhaps we can discuss when the discussion takes place. Uh, in our panel, the next speaker is Dr. D. Satya. Are you